Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today we're here to talk about the latest in our Sony Pictures Classics 30th Anniversary 4K Blu-ray set review. And today we're going to be talking about Ang Lee's 2000 film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And we're going to talk about that 4K that came in this pack, and we're going to compare it to that 2016 4K Blu-ray that was previously released. But before we dive into all that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, some tech and game reviews, and now we do podcasts, if you're into all that, nothing helps this channel out more than by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, searching for us on all podcast platforms, and giving us a 5-star rating. So before we dive into the review of the 4K, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the film and how I came to this film, because there is a good chance that this was probably my first foreign language film that I ever saw. This came out in the year 2000. Came to home video in about 2001, and I was in the 4th grade, and I'm telling you, I can remember people in my grade being excited about this movie. And doing my research, I guess that's not a surprise because they designed this film to appeal to the Western market. This was the first foreign language film that was ever made overseas to make over $100 million here in the United States. This only had a $17 million budget. It made well over $200 million. It was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and it really put Ang Lee on the map as a director. And Ang Lee is a director that me personally, I've just never been the biggest fan of any of his movies. Life of Pi, Gemini Man, he did that original Hulk movie that came out in about 2003. But for me, I think his best film, and that's including this, is still Brokeback Mountain, because I think my biggest flaw with Ang Lee is his movies always look great. He's always pushing the limit of what technology can do, and it all started right here. But he always, I feel like, is missing that emotional punch that all his movies would need to take it to the next level. And I think he nailed that perfectly with Brokeback Mountain, and that's really a movie that's more pulled back and is really an Academy type movie where it's not really leaning into the action like he does with almost all of his other movies. That one really is more story based, and I think it's a little more focused on the actual story, whereas this movie and most of Ang Lee's movies are really about pushing the limits of the special effects, because this movie is probably most known for its martial arts scenes, and rightfully so, because they are some of the best martial arts scenes you're ever going to see on film, and that's still true 23 years later. These martial arts scenes are incredible. I mean, I was hook, line, and sinker into all of these. Now, again, the story for this is still pretty good, but it's really cool to see Michelle Yeoh popping up, because there is a good chance that Michelle Yeoh could still win Best Actress this year, and I'm pulling for her. I thought she did a great job in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't think she had the best performance, but it would be cool to see her because she does a great job acting in this film, and she's asked to do a lot in this film that she was also asked to do in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that's sell the emotional drama and doing stunts while acting, because this movie, all the stunts were pretty much done by the actors, so that's pretty cool. That's why you get all those close-ups of their faces. The only thing that Ang Lee said that they had to remove in post was the wire work. He even said that this was probably one of the hardest movies for him to make as a director. I think he said he didn't get more than a half a day off in 8 months, and that's incredible because there was just so much work that had to go into making this film, and it shows on screen because it looks beautiful, it's acted phenomenally, the story does get you intrigued. I wasn't really all in on this at the beginning of this movie. About the first third of the movie, I'm like, okay, this story's pretty interesting. They don't give you an exact time when this movie takes place. They give you about a range when you look it up, about a couple hundred years, and that was done also intentionally to help, add to the fantasy element of this film, so that you don't know exactly when this is going on, so you're not looking like, okay, is this true or is this fiction? It just leaves it ambiguous for the viewer, and I think that does help to tell this very small contained story that really does feel big in scope. So the plot of this movie is very interesting, the story is very interesting, and then by the very end of this movie, I really was fully invested in this story, in these characters, and what their journey was to get there. And I was a little surprised by that. I didn't expect that. I was really, at the beginning of this movie, I was like, this is just not my type of movie. These types of movies just don't always work for me. And you know what? For a genre of film that usually doesn't work for me, this one I thought was actually very good, and I can see why people do cherish this movie, love this movie. Again, I can't sell short how popular this movie was when it first came out. Everybody was talking about this. There's a reason why when I still see this movie pop up that I remember, I get all those nostalgic feelings of when it first came out, just because this movie really did take the world by storm back in 2000 and 2001. It really can't be sold short. You had to be there, especially here in the United States. I guess it was just something new for us, and the fact that when you read about it that was all by design is pretty incredible. It just shows you that if you get a plan, you stick to it, it's going to land, and it really did for this. It put Ang Lee on the map. It's a great film. I mean, it has all its fans. If you're a fan of this film, I'm not telling you anything different. If you're not a fan of this film and you're not really a big martial arts film fan, and maybe a story like this doesn't really work for you, like it really doesn't always work for me, I still say check this one out. I do think it's one of the better ones, and it's definitely in Ang Lee's top 2 or 3 films, at least for me personally. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Ang Lee guy, but this is definitely one of his best films. It's so well constructed, so well directed, so well acted. It's really hard to say anything negative about it. It's just going to come down to personal taste. It doesn't really have any issues with how this film was made. I think the production, the cinematography, the score, I think are all perfect. It's just not 100% my type of movie, but that's not to sell this movie short at all. But we're also here today to talk about its new updated 4K Blu-ray that just came out in the Sony Pictures Classics 30th Anniversary set. So let's talk about that right now. So what's intriguing about this 4K Blu-ray that came in the set, that this is actually a previously released 4K Blu-ray and a very early released 4K Blu-ray at that. Now, it was released by Sony, and they were at the time, you know, the big heavy hitters. This is their technology in 4K technology. So this original 4K Blu-ray for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out in October of 2016. Very early for 4K technology. This is right at the beginning. It's probably one of the first 4Ks ever released, if I had to guess. I'm not 100% sure on that, and I can see why, because it would be a showpiece for what 4K technology can do as far as high dynamic range. And, you know, that was the big selling point at the time. New scan, HDR, Dolby Atmos, because this does have a Dolby Atmos track on it, only in Mandarin though. And that's another thing that I just want to take quick note of. Like, if you are one of those people who doesn't like subtitles, you're going to have to, if you want to watch this in Dolby Atmos, watch it with subtitles. If you want to watch this with an English dub, that's only got a DTS True HD 5.1 on there, not in Dolby Atmos. If you want Dolby Atmos, you're going to have to deal with the subtitles. And if I'm being honest, I recommend watching it with the subtitles anyway. I didn't think that the dub on this is the greatest. And that goes for any other language that's on here, like French. That's also going to be in a DTS HD 5.1. I didn't test those tracks. I only tested the Dolby Atmos track, and there's also a Dolby True HD 7.1, which are pretty much the same thing, and those are both in Mandarin. So if you are somebody who doesn't like subtitles, you're going to have to deal with not the greatest dub, and you're also not going to get that luxury of that Dolby Atmos track, which I do think is a great Dolby Atmos track at that. Not the greatest Dolby Atmos track, but it's still pretty good. Again, this is an older Atmos track, because one thing I've noticed about these Sony Pictures Classic sets is they're really just taking the audio that was previously released and they're just bringing them over to these discs. Same thing with all the extras. Yes, I didn't expect extras on all these in this 30th anniversary set, so I'm very happy that we got the extras that were on the disc. Again, all one 4K disc, so that's all really cool. And again, I guess I'll show you guys what it looks like. You know, it comes in this packaging as always. So this is what it looks like in here. You open it up, you find Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And again, if you had the previous release, I think that did have a slipcover. I could be wrong on that, but you're going to get a unique slipcover for the Sony Pictures Classics 30th Anniversary 4K set. So, you know, it's uniform with all the slipcovers that are in there. So you get that nice Sony Pictures Classics blue on the side. On the back, you get no stacks, just 3 pictures with a bunch of quotes. And then when you peel this back, this does look like the previous 4K Blu-ray that came out as far as the visuals on the front of this. And then on the back, you get all your stats. And also, you pop that open, individual disc design, 1 disc, no Blu-ray. So like I said, all of your extras are going to be on that 4K, and I didn't expect any extras, and I think it's really cool that the extras that are on there, even if it's not that much, I think that's a bonus for this set, because I didn't expect any of these discs to have any extras on there. I was just expecting the films, and I was cool with that going into this. You know, I just wanted to see some beautiful looking films, and I expected all of these to be a showcase for what Sony Pictures Classics has been able to do over their 30-year history, and that's exactly what they did here. Now, this one, I have to admit, because the only upgrade to this, because this is a previous 4K release, is adding Dolby Vision to it. Nothing else is new except for that. And that Dolby Vision does help to increase what this looks like over the HDR. The HDR does look a little bit dated, it doesn't look bad, but the Dolby Vision doesn't clean that up to what we would think of a modern 4K to look like. Actually, at this point, this is the 6th 4K in this set. I would say that this is probably the weakest looking of the 6. And I just think that's because it's an older scan. Now, putting Dolby Vision over that does fix a lot of the stuff you would expect. It does make it a little bit brighter. It makes the blacks a little bit darker. It makes the contrast more noticeable. But it's not a huge upgrade over that HDR. So if you have the previous 4K and you're thinking, oh, you know, I would really like Dolby Vision on it, I don't think you're going to notice that big of a difference. Will you notice a difference? Sure. If you're looking at it very closely, you're going to notice a difference. You're going to notice that the Dolby Vision is better, but that doesn't mean that the HDR was bad. It's just that it's a little bit dated. So I tested this out on my LG C2, and that's where I checked it out with Dolby Vision, and I checked out the Dolby Atmos track in Mandarin. And then I went back to my other TV, my LG C1, and I tested out the HDR, and I compared the two. And yeah, it's just not a huge difference. It's definitely better. The Dolby Vision definitely makes some improvements over the HDR, but it's not enough for me to say if you have that previous 2016 Blu-ray. Again, I can't compare it one for one. I can only compare the scans on this disc. I can only compare the HDR on and off on this one disc. I don't have the previous disc to compare it to, but comparing them on here, I definitely think the Dolby Vision is noticeably better, but not a huge noticeable difference. So my recommendation would be, if you have that previous 4K Blu-ray, I don't think you need to grab this set to get it. But in the future, if you're a huge fan of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I would say if this ever drops in price, they do a solo release of it with Dolby Vision on it, and it's about 20 bucks. I would say it's definitely worth 20 bucks because that Atmos track is solid. The visuals and that visual upgrade to it from HDR to Dolby Vision is really solid, and this movie does have a ton of fans. People love this movie. And I can really highly recommend, if you are a fan of this movie, grabbing it on 4K in Dolby Vision in this upgraded set if you want it. Now, if you're not a big fan of this movie, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie myself. I personally wouldn't have grabbed this if it hadn't been in this set, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys. I wouldn't go out and grab it if I already have that previous 2016 4K. I don't think that it's necessary to upgrade it because you're only going to get an upgrade from HDR to Dolby Vision, and that's just not enough to completely justify it unless you're a huge fan of the film, and I know there are huge fans of this film. So overall, I'm very happy with this. I'm definitely glad that I checked out this 4K. So far in the set, I think this is more of a middle of the road. I think this has had the weakest visuals in this set so far, but overall, this is a great film. It's a very popular film. It's probably the most popular film in this set, if I had to guess, because of just name value alone. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who remember how big this movie was when it came out, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who just truly love this film, and they wanted to see what it looked like with new Dolby Vision on it. And I think you might be a little disappointed if you have that previous 4K Blu-ray, but if you only are coming to it from a previous Blu-ray or DVD, I think you're going to be very happy. It's still a visual showpiece for Sony and Sony Pictures Classics. You know, it's one of the best looking movies probably of all time. Again, not one of my favorites, but it still looked great. Those martial arts effects are amazing. Those special effects in this movie are amazing. You really have to applaud the filmmakers and the actors and everything that went into making this movie, because it is a technical showpiece, and it really shows you why a movie like this did get nominated for 10 awards, because it absolutely deserved it from a technical standpoint. And I could definitely recommend it even if you aren't a fan of these types of films. So what would I give this 4K Blu-ray that came in this set overall? If it was individually released, I would still give this a very solid 8 out of 10. So I could definitely recommend you checking this out. But before we get out of here today, we have a little bit of business to take care of. It's Monday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. So on Friday's video, I asked you guys 2 questions. What is a movie that disappointed you, and what is a movie that surprised you? And we got plenty of great answers here. You know, a lot of people have been let down by some movies, and a lot of people have been surprised by some movies. I mean, I don't know what I would say the movie that let me down the most was. I think it was Batman vs. Superman, because that's a movie that made me stop going and seeing DC movies in theaters for a long time. But the thing with that movie was, I had heard going into it that it wasn't the greatest movie, so I kind of tapered my expectations, but yet somehow I still remember that feeling of walking out of there just incredibly let down, and that's just because of my attachment to Batman. Batman is my favorite superhero ever, and it's probably my favorite character just in story in general ever. I mean, my connection to him personally is amazing, and then that movie just, you know, it just didn't hit. It didn't work at all for me, and it's really disappointing to say, because I had high expectations for it, and I even like Ben Affleck as Batman. But, you know, I still haven't seen the director's cut for people out there who have said that that version is better. I still haven't checked it out. I've never gone back since the theater. I'm still a little hurt, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys. But anyway, I'll keep rambling on, and we have a magic wheel to spin. We're going to spin that bad boy 2 times. We're going to pick 2 winners, and whoever those 2 winners are, they will have their choice of the digital codes that you saw on your screen before you today. So without further ado, let's spin this magic wheel. All right, time for the first wheel spin. CMC. I wasn't even sure if that was you or Lord Raiden. All right, congratulations. Just gonna remove you, and we're gonna spin again. Oh my God, that's close again. The Destroyer! Alright, congratulations. Alright, congratulations. CM Space C and the Destroyer. Congratulations to you guys. CMC, I think this is your first win. Congratulations. I don't know what CMC stands for. Does it stand for Cool Man Chris? I'm just guessing here. And the Destroyer, I think this is your second win. I could be wrong on that also. But for you guys, if you don't know, the way to reach out to us and claim your digital code is simple. Reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Just direct message us there. Or you can always reach us at our email address, letstalkentmt@gmail.com. Let us know which of the digital codes you would like. As long as the other winner didn't grab that digital code is all yours. And for everyone else who didn't win this week, we really do appreciate you guys entering into our digital code giveaway. Any support on this channel is so much appreciated. It really does help us keep making videos just like this and reviewing 4Ks and Blu-rays for all of you guys. And it really doesn't go unnoticed. We just want to thank you all so much. And the digital code giveaway is something we've been doing since the very beginning. And we really appreciate seeing all these names that come up on this wheel now and just interacting with you guys over the weekend and finding out some movies that you guys are interested in that we possibly don't know about. It's a lot of fun just talking with you guys in the comment section. And just want to tell you guys, thank you so much. And if you guys want to enter in the next week's digital code giveaway, make sure you come back to this Friday's video and we will do this all again. So anyway, guys, we want you guys to enjoy the rest of your week. We really appreciate all your support. And if you want to keep supporting us, nothing helps us out more than by you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, searching for Let's Talk Entertainment and Media on all podcast services, subscribing there, giving us a 5-star rating for a couple of 5-star men. 5-star man! Or 5-star man! And then after you do all that, I want you to grab your entire movie collection, run out into those streets, and tell all your friends about us.